Welcome back to Map 2 between Sweden and the United Kingdom from the Overwatch World Cup 2017. Map 2 is Numbani, and again we're going to see some reluctance from the United Kingdom to run Mercy in favor of their dive comp. In fact, initially we're going to see their dive comp actually works rather effectively with Genji, Tracer, and the new DPS style D.Va diving the backline and getting many picks on chips. Unfortunately, early picks like this on crews are going to force them to retreat due to the lack of a res. This is going to waste a lot of time, and you're going to see in this next fight, because of a pick, they're able to win. However, without these picks, it would be very easy for Sweden to stall out the United Kingdom on this first point, because a single pick means a lot more against the UK than it does against Sweden, except for this one on Chipsogen, which is huge. Great trade from Smex. Dives the Mercy. I believe the Mercy actually gets caught out being on a fly, and Smex dives her on the back line, gets a very good pick, leading to this one fight. Unfortunately, there's a wasted sound barrier here from RealsX, which would be really useful, as we'll see on the first fight on second point. At that point, there was only a D.Va on the point, so in hindsight, probably not necessary. Hard to say in the moment, however. Second point is actually really good for the United Kingdom's composition here, as we're going to see with such high mobility, the ability to dive and focus targets will get very, very effective later on the second point. Sweden, however, does have a good initial hold on the second point. Great play from Manitin, and Swoosh actually makes it so the cart isn't moving very far, and a decent disengage with the sound barrier here from Sweden with Primal Rage to knock away Cruz. This Dragon Blade means the UK doesn't get anything out of that, and Tavik cleans up with Attack Visor following this. Now, Sweden uses a lot in that fight, except for the Valkyrie. Meaning, if Chips gets picked early next fight, it's pretty much a guaranteed loss because they don't have anything to fall back on. The UK, smartly, only really invested a Dragon Blade and a Transcendence earlier and saved the rest of their ults once they realized the fight wasn't won anymore. Again, however, great play from Sweden's tanks. This is going to keep the payload almost in the same spot throughout the entire fight, meaning the UK doesn't get any free positioning or free distance. However, earlier in this fight, a big pick on Chips, meaning this fight is pretty much a guaranteed victory from the UK.
Sweden now working their way to the second point, or United Kingdom working their way to the second point. Sweden with one more chance to defend this, not a lot in the tank, but oh well, that hurts. Tavik goes down early on. That's gonna use the resurrection cooldown for Chips. There's still 6 here for Sweden. But
as we get closer to the third point, it's interesting to see how it will become more difficult for the United Kingdom to get good engagements after having to fight through a choke point. However, here another great early pick from the United Kingdom leads to a fight win with Chips out of the fight. Also very good from United Kingdom. Not too much was invested in this fight. We'll still have Dragon Blade and Transcendence going into the next fight on the third point. Sweden, however, does have quite a few ults of their own, with Tavik having his Tack Visor, Swoosh with Primal Rage, and Snillo going to have Pulse Bomb. This is where things turn a little bit in this map, actually, as Sweden's composition is actually going to favor them with a closer spawn, as we see Chips actually switches to the Zenyatta, and with the spawn so close, the res isn't as necessary as it was on earlier points. So having that extra damage and a faster kill time from the Zenyatta is actually huge. we see there Chips actually does a lot of damage after the swap. Something the UK probably wasn't expecting.
Next fight, Transcendence up here for Boombox, and there is a window here where the UK can just dive right in. They also have the barrier, and here we go. The Transcendence is out. The United Kingdom dives in. They lost Christopher early on, though. He wasn't in the Transcendence field, and that ruins the plan they were going for there, Hex. It's not quite over.
Unfortunate Transcendence here. Christopher dies immediately before the Transcendence popped, and the UK doesn't get any value. And this will actually be a trend that's observed throughout this third point. The UK has some struggles coordinating their support ults. One saving grace, however, is that the UK actually builds their support ults at a very quick pace.
It's his home ground, and Mikey going down early, and we're in a merciless game right now. Those picks matter.
That would have been a great stick by Mikey A. Would have been a great engage, however, was not to be. And a great pick there from Sweden. And without the res, nothing the United Kingdom can do other than wait for the respawn timer. One of the keys for the United Kingdom here, as we see them banking their ults, is they need to get onto Veek. And that will be one of their primary points coming into these next couple fights, because he is putting in so much damage on to the UK on entry. Great pulse bomb from Snillo, shuts down that fight almost immediately with the Dragon Blade out of there. And again, both support ults were used from the United Kingdom, so they're not going to have much going into this next fight. Sweden does, however, invest a couple of ults of their own. However, Chips does have Transcendence, which should help them survive this next fight. Great pick from Chips. Again, another 10-second delay. Sweden getting very aggressive here, trying to get these picks. And again, it's working extremely well. This counter engage on the retreating United Kingdom means they're just buying time. And already we're down to about a minute of time. And the United Kingdom, I believe, had roughly 3.5 minutes to cap out third. So a great defense so far from Sweden. Watch Zebasai on this engage. You'll notice there how the Winston actually goes flying to the left. And this is a boop actually from Zebasai. And this lets Tavik keep his positioning. And the Winston gets nothing out of it. And that leads directly to the double Helix rocket from Tavik. So that small boop won that fight. A very small detail was the key to that fight win. If Christopher had reached Tavik on that fight, Tavik would have been forced off that high ground, forced back for healing, and he would have gotten nearly as much damage off as he did, which really was the deciding factor in that fight. And again, the United Kingdom use a sound barrier and get absolutely nothing from it. So going to this final fight, and another key, Mikey A's pulse bombs have not been getting their value. He just used another one there. I don't think I've seen him with the pick in the kill feed at all. Snillo has been doing a lot more in terms of his pulse bombs, which has been a huge benefit to Sweden because they can shut down a fight way easier when he's landing consistent pulse bombs. And as a result, Sweden's going to clean up and is going to get the full hold on third point of Numbani. Overall, I think a big issue the UK had on their last round, on their attack phase, was the use of the support ults, and without running a Mercy, they weren't able to sustain nearly as well as Sweden did in the earlier portions of the map. Great dive here from Sweden, pushing the United Kingdom off the high ground. It's going to give them better positioning. However, it's a good disengage, actually, from the UK, not letting anyone get picked. But the better positioning from Sweden is now going to allow them to clean up this fight. A key here was the pressure that Tavik was able to put on Boombox in the back line and draw a lot of attention from the United Kingdom. allowing the rest of his team to get work done. And a great aggressive play here from Sweden with great delays onto Cruz. This is going to allow a lot more free push of the payload, and we'll actually see, unlike the United Kingdom, who were stalled out early on second point, Sweden should get a lot more distance because of that aggressive push after taking the first point. It's very calculated aggression. Tvik with a very aggressive play, however, it's well coordinated with swoosh, and they get right on to the Zenyatta, and this pretty much guarantees a fight win. The UK hasn't even had a chance to use ultimates because they're getting picked so quickly that there's no point in investing, and without the Mercy, there's no reason to continue fighting and putting in extra ults in a 5v6 or 4v6. Now, the UK does have 5 ults, so this is a fight they should be able to win. Now, they do get that early pick onto Zebasai, and Cruz is going to get his blade out. Chips with Valkyrie here brings them both right back, however. So that's, and Boombox used Transcendence there too. So that's 2 ults, and Chips brought all of the Fallen back up. And now Sweden has turned this fight around. It was a bit of a scattered engage to the United Kingdom too. It appeared initially that only one of their players was going to stall out the payload. And then Smex came in to reinforce, and then Cruz came in with the blade. However, it was still only 3 of them on the point, and it felt kind of like there was a lack of communication from the United Kingdom at that point. Which is to be expected from a team that was only assembled for the World Cup. But as a direct result of this, Sweden is on the cusp of winning the second map. And a pick onto Realzex, who is swapped to the Mercy far too late, however, means Sweden is going to get a lot more distance. Now, a good pick from Boombox here should back up Sweden a little bit. However, it doesn't matter. Sweden, with the self-destruct, pushes the United Kingdom off the payload and reaches that box of victory. Great win from Sweden. I would say that was rather dominant. The United Kingdom had some good stretches on Numbani. They were able to push second point. However, I didn't think their aggression was as good on second point because they got stalled out initially, meaning they had less time on third. Also, their inability to run a Mercy onto that final point with such a long walk back from the attacker spawn and the constant picks that Sweden was getting. Without that Mercy, the UK didn't really have a chance. Moving on to Volsky, we're going to see Chips running the Sombra, something he's actually run a little bit with Envious, I believe, at Apex and Contenders. United Kingdom actually going to be running the Mercy out of the gates for the first time, I believe, since Oasis Map 1. We see the Sweden is positioned up on the high ground with the tanks on the point, allowing Tvik to get a lot of free range over the UK. Now here we see the dive from Christopher. However, he's going to get counter-dived immediately and fall very quickly with the attempted engage on Tvik. We see this is actually one of the UK's clear attempts at a win condition. They have been pushing after Tvik heavily, trying to force away his positioning because, as we know, he is Tvik. He can do a lot of damage. This is a very back and forth fight between the UK and Sweden here, which is actually heavily benefiting the UK because their respawns are so much closer. So they'll be able to reinforce and should be able to take this fight through a battle of attrition. They are getting stalled out a little bit in the choke, which should actually allow some time for Sweden to get back. Sombra Chips with that EMP in the back gets the immediate pick, and that's the key to the engage here for Sweden and a big fight cleanup. I think there was some hesitation perhaps from the United Kingdom to push their advantage after that back and forth fight, which is unfortunate because it allowed Sweden to get back in time and allowed actually Chips to be able to get that EMP off while they had a full team available to capitalize.
It's going to be Chips still on the Sombra. I don't think he switched because he had 80%. We'll see if he ends up going to Mercy after, because Chips definitely has way more experience on the Mercy and Zebo side.
We see Cruz attempts to get to the back line. However, he's immediately dived and forced off his target. However, a good pick from Smex on Stillo, and then again onto Chips is huge, because that's no EMP for this fight. Taviki is going to pick up Cruz. However, I believe the advantage is already too far in the United Kingdom's favor, and with Real Zex now having a res, they're able to bring Cruz back and secure this fight. This is also rather good because they do have 3 ults coming into the final point. They're going to have Transcendence, they're going to have Pulse Bomb, they're going to have Dragon Blade, which, without Sweden having a support ult, this could be a win condition right here and end up getting a quite good time on Volskaya, considering how long it took them to get first. A good couple shurikens there from Cruz, almost gets a pick onto Zebasai at the very beginning of that fight. Great initial pick from the United Kingdom. They found the Mercy, they dive on her. However, it gets traded back immediately. Tavik, Snillo, Manitin, great picks there to shut down this push. And despite the pushback, actually, Reels is going to get the res. This fight isn't over. Great headshot there onto Tavik from Boombox. But Swoosh puts in work, gets both supports there diving the back line. And that should spell the end of this fight. The UK doesn't get a single tick from that. Cruz actually never got his Dragon Blade off, and Mikey never used his Pulse Bomb. So that's a little bit curious that neither of those ults were used in that fight. That could have been something that turned the fight around. Sweden now actually is going to have a chance to build an ult economy on second point. With this defender's respawn advantage, it's not necessary to get those instant team wipes on their side like it is for the United Kingdom. So Sweden's able to burn them more gradually across the course of the fight. And Chips is building ult so quickly. And it forces actually a Valkyrie here, because Mikey gets a pick, and actually their team's pick forces the Valkyrie because they engage on this. But before the Transcendence pops, Smex gets popped out of mech, Manitin gets a pick on Cruz here, and Sweden's bringing this back. And Chip still is going to have his EMP, which he's not even going to need. Tavik uses the blade here. Not 100% sure it's necessary. He does put in work. However, they already had the man advantage. May not have been necessary. The Manitin pick of Manitin's hero, Roadhog, has actually been hugely effective at shutting down some of these dive heroes on the United Kingdom, and Cruz has been having trouble getting his Dragon Blades off because of this. Again, a great EMP from Chips. It might seem a little bit strange from outside that he's pretty much solo EMPing a Zenyatta. However, that brings Zenyatta down to 50 HP right off the bat, and then with a great dive from Sweden, they're able to take out the Zenyatta and then attack and push their 5v6 advantage against the United Kingdom and win that fight. Now, they don't have any ults here, but neither really do the United Kingdom, so a bit of a stalemate right now. The United Kingdom has had trouble on entry here. They take way too much damage on entry. It's interesting that they're sticking with this dive when perhaps a more death ball comp might help them push this final point, taking less damage on entry with something like a Zarya and a Reinhardt allowing them to be more sustained and have better protection for Real Zex and Boombox. It is also interesting that they're not running a Lucio, who generally helps extremely on pushing through choke points fast without taking as much damage. It's interesting because of how strong Mercy was on this patch. So it's a trade-off that I didn't think the United Kingdom would make, considering how reluctant they were to run Mercy on previous maps. Again, great pick from Chips. However, the UK actually punishes this dive rather well and are going to get the man advantage. However, the reses come out from Zebasai's Valkyrie. Tavik gets a pick onto Cruz with the blade, a very important pick because that was the main source of DPS now that Cruz has switched, and a good cleanup from Sweden. And there's only 30 seconds left here, and this is a great delay onto Reels. Super good delay. This means there's no mercy on this final push by the United Kingdom. No chance that they can get anything here. Great force of a recall onto Mikey A means he's not going to get into the back line. Chips has EMP. This should be all. That should be all for this game. Overall, great defense from Sweden on second point. Chips very good with the Sombra play. Dominant second point defense. That's going to be a tough task for the UK to hold as well, if not better, to win this map. Sweden, as I mentioned earlier, is actually running the Lucio, and we'll see how this helps them push through the choke points very effectively. And again, they're holding on to this hog because we saw how effective it was on the last point. Be able to hook in Christopher, be able to hook in Mikey A, getting those picks. Good pick from Cruz, but the res is there from Chips. We see how the threat of the hog is even pushing the United Kingdom back as they're afraid of being in that hook range. They force the res out of Reels and then push their advantage here, does Sweden. And they're going to get better positioning on the point, and there's no chance that the United Kingdom can come back in this fight. We see the threat of Manitin here with his big shotgun, those hooks, putting a lot of fear into the United Kingdom. United Kingdom is in a tough spot now because all they have is Transcendence. Sweden's coming in with Valkyrie. They're coming in with Primal Rage. And they only need a tick. They're already got position on the point. This looks like it's going to be game. Manitin, great pick on Tavik with the tack visor, putting in work, and that is it. A clean 3-0 sweep by Sweden over the United Kingdom. Overall, I think the keys to Sweden's victory were on Oasis, Manitin playing very well on the Zarya. Actually, he played very well throughout the entire series with Hog, Zarya, and any other heroes he played. He was showing up a lot in the kill feed. Chips also playing a very good Mercy, only getting picked a couple times to start the fight on second point Numbani, which is a hard point to defend anyways. And a great play on the Sombra. I think it's also important to mention how Sweden is composed most of players from the Misfits roster, or now the Miami Mayhem of the Overwatch League, so they probably had better coordination and more practice and synergy compared to the United Kingdom. A little bit of a disappointing run for the United Kingdom. They looked so strong in the Santa Monica group stage, going 4-0, so it's a little bit disappointing to see them go out 0-3 at BlizzCon. Overall, great first match, and I'm looking forward to analyzing the other quarterfinals, the semis, and the finals of BlizzCon thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this first series of VOD reviews, and I hope to see you back for the next quarterfinal, which will be Canada versus Australia.